I thought moving into a nursing home would make my life easier. I was wrong. I sold my house, packed up decades of memories, and walked through those doors, believing I was making the right choice. But the moment I stepped in, reality hit me like a train. No one warned me about the loneliness, the loss of freedom, the way the world forgets about you the moment you leave your home behind. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, or if you have a loved one considering it, please listen to me first. These 6 hard truths changed my life forever. I don't want you to go through the same regret. 1. You lose your freedom faster than you think. At first, I told myself this was just another chapter of life. A transition. Nothing to fear. I even convinced myself that I would settle in quickly, maybe even enjoy the change. After all, I had always been adaptable. But the first night here, I felt it, the difference. My room was small but clean, the walls bare and the bed too stiff. I tried to remind myself that it was temporary, that I'd adjust. But the moment I heard the voice over the intercom announcing it was time for lights out, something inside me sank. I wasn't home. Home was where I could choose to read into the late hours of the night, sip on a cup of tea at my own pace, or step outside to feel the cool breeze on my face whenever I pleased. Here, those choices didn't exist. The rules did. And the rules weren't mine. I quickly realized that my days were no longer mine to shape. Mornings started at the same time for everyone, no matter how I felt. Breakfast was served at a fixed hour, and if I wasn't hungry, too bad. Lunch and dinner followed the same strict schedule, each meal set before me without a second thought to what I might actually want. I had always loved cooking, the simple joy of preparing my favorite meals exactly how I liked them. That freedom was gone. And it wasn't just the food. Want to go outside for fresh air? You need approval. Want to stay up late to watch a movie? Not allowed. Want to take a longer nap in the afternoon? Someone will wake you up. Every little thing had to be checked, approved, and fit within their system. And that's what this place was. A system, not a home. But what struck me the hardest wasn't just the schedules or the rules. It was the slow realization that I was no longer in charge of my own life. I had once been the person people depended on, making decisions, handling responsibilities, living on my own terms. Now I had to ask permission for things I had taken for granted my whole life. It's a strange thing, losing your independence piece by piece, so slowly that you don't notice until one day you wake up and realize it's gone. I thought I'd have time to prepare for this loss, but the truth is, it slipped away before I could even hold on to it, and I learned this the hard way. 2. Loneliness is worse than illness. Before I arrived, I told myself I wouldn't be alone. I imagined making new friends, sitting in the common areas, sharing stories, maybe even laughing over shared memories. I thought there would be social events, little gatherings that made the days feel less empty. But the reality is much different. Most people here don't talk much. Some can't anymore. Others don't want to. They sit in silence, staring out of windows, lost in their own thoughts. And after a while, I started doing the same. Because when the people around you have stopped talking, stopped engaging, it becomes harder and harder to find the energy to reach out. The dining hall is the loneliest place of all. It's filled with people, yet it feels empty. We sit side by side, but we're not really together. Conversations, if they happen, are brief, often about medications or aches and pains. I miss talking about life, about books, about memories, about silly things that make you smile. I try sometimes making small talk with the person next to me, but too often I'm met with a nod and nothing more. Some people are lost in their own worlds. Others have simply stopped expecting anything different. And soon, I began to understand why. When you spend enough time feeling invisible, you start to believe that you are. But the worst part, the part that stings the most, is the visits, or rather, the lack of them. When I first arrived, my family promised they'd visit often. Every weekend, they said with certainty, and for a little while they did. But life has a way of pulling people in different directions. Work gets busy, kids have activities, responsibilities pile up. The visits became less frequent, the calls fewer. At first I tried to remind myself that they still cared, that they were just caught up in their own lives. But then, weeks turned into months. And one day I sat by the window and realized I was waiting for people who weren't coming, and nothing in the world prepares you for that moment. 3. The care isn't always what you expect. I wanted to believe that being here meant being cared for, that even if I lost some of my independence, I'd be treated with kindness, with patience. And to be fair, some caregivers are wonderful. They smile, they take the time to talk, they treat you like a person. But then there are the others, the ones who see you as just another task on their long list. They rush through the motions, speaking to you as if you're not really there. They feed you quickly, clean you up, move you from one place to another without much thought. It's not cruelty, but it's not kindness either. It's detachment. And after a while, you start to feel like just another bed, just another body, just another responsibility they need to check off. I remember one night, lying in bed in pain. I pressed the call button expecting someone to come. Minutes passed, then half an hour, then an hour. The pain grew sharper, but no one came. I kept staring at the door, willing it to open, listening for footsteps in the hallway. Nothing. I don't remember when I fell asleep, only that when I woke up, the pain was still there, but so was something else. A feeling of helplessness I had never known before. It was the moment I realized that I was at the mercy of this place, that no matter how much I wanted to believe I was still in control, I wasn't. Not really. I used to pride myself on my independence, on the fact that I didn't need anyone to take care of me. Now, I rely on people who don't always have the time or patience to listen. I tell myself to be grateful for the care I do receive, but there are days when it's hard. Days when I feel like a burden, like an afterthought. Days when I want to stand up and shout, "I am still here! I am still me!" But I don't. Because in a place like this, you learn to quiet that voice inside you. You learn that no matter how much you want to be seen, to be heard, to be treated as more than just another patient, the system doesn't always allow for that. And that's a truth I never expected to face. 4. Your world shrinks more than you imagine. Before I moved in, my world was full of choices. If I wanted to take a walk, I did. If I wanted to hop on a bus and visit an old friend, nothing stopped me. I could sit in my own living room in my favorite chair, sipping coffee and watching the world go by outside my window. My world had texture. It was filled with conversations, small errands, familiar faces at the grocery store. I didn't realize how much those little things mattered until they were gone. Now, my world is this room, this hallway, these walls. The same patterns repeat every day like a song on a loop that never changes. Even the view outside my window stays the same. The seasons may shift, but I experience them from behind glass. The world I once knew continues on without me, and that's a hard truth to accept. The hardest part isn't just the small space, it's the limits on what I can do. I can't just decide to go for a walk on a whim. I can't visit my favorite park, or even go to the store if I want to buy something for myself. I have to wait for scheduled outings which don't always come. And when they do, it's not the same. It's a group trip, a planned event, a carefully managed moment where I have little say in where we go or how long we stay. It's not true freedom. I never thought I'd miss something as simple as standing in line at the checkout, feeling the weight of my own groceries in my hands. But I do. More than I ever imagined. At home, I used to wake up with a sense of purpose, even if it was just deciding what to cook for breakfast or watering the plants. Here, I wake up wondering how I'll fill the hours. The days blend together, each one feeling like the last. It's not that the staff doesn't try. They offer activities, little games, television, books, but it's not the same. I don't want scheduled entertainment. I want real life. I want choices. I want to feel like I'm still part of the world, not just watching it from the sidelines. No one warned me how fast everything would shrink, how quickly life would feel like something I used to have. And that, more than anything, is what makes this place feel less like home and more like a place where time simply stands still. 5. The emotional toll is heavier than expected. People talk about the physical changes of aging, the aches, the stiffness, the slower pace, but no one tells you about the emotional weight that comes with losing control over your own life. The first few weeks here, I felt like I was in a fog. I told myself I just needed time to adjust, that this would start feeling normal. But as time passed, something else set in. A deep sadness that I couldn't shake. It wasn't just about missing my old home. It was about realizing that I would never get that independence back. The way I lived before is over. No one told me how much that realization would hurt. I used to feel like a person. Now I feel like a patient, a name on a chart, a body in a chair, a task to be managed. The staff is polite, some are even kind, but there's always a distance. They call me by name, but they don't really know me, not the real me, not the person I was before this place. I used to have hobbies, interests, things that made me unique. Now I'm defined by my routine. When I eat, when I take my medication, when I go to bed, the sense of being someone, an individual with dreams, opinions, and stories has faded. I am part of a system now, and it's a system that rarely asks how I feel about anything. But the hardest part? Watching people around me disappear. When I first arrived, I made friends. We sat together, shared meals, talked about our families. And then slowly the chairs at the table started emptying. A friend misses a meal, then another. You hear whispers about someone being moved to another section, about someone not waking up that morning. Their room is cleared out before you even have time to process it. The first time it happened, it shook me. Now I've seen it happen so many times that I've learned to brace myself, but no matter how much I try to prepare, I always ask the same question. When will it be my turn? 6. The place you thought would bring safety feels like a waiting room. I thought this would be a place of comfort, a place where I could relax, feel cared for, and enjoy my last years with dignity. That's what they tell you when you make the decision to move in. They use words like community and support, and for a while I tried to believe in those words. But the truth? This place doesn't feel like a home. It feels like a waiting room, a place where time stretches long and slow, where you sit, waiting for the next scheduled meal, the next check-in, the next holiday when someone might come visit. And beyond all of that, there's the waiting no one talks about, the waiting for what comes next, the waiting for the end. Every day is built around waiting. Waiting for medications, waiting for meals, waiting for someone to come and help you with something you used to do yourself. Even waiting for simple things like getting fresh air requires patience. But the worst kind of waiting? Waiting for visitors. I remember how, at first, I'd get ready early, making sure I looked nice, sitting by the window watching the parking lot, hoping to see a familiar car pull in. But over time, the waiting changed. I stopped getting ready so early. I stopped expecting people to show up when they said they would. The waiting became less about excitement and more about managing disappointment. I don't say this to scare anyone. I say it because I wish someone had told me the truth before I made this decision. I wish I had known that a place that promises safety can still feel cold. That being surrounded by people doesn't mean you won't feel alone. That even with medical care and a structured environment, the biggest challenge isn't your health. It's the weight of time. The weight of watching the world go on without you. And that's something I don't think anyone can truly prepare for. If I could go back in time, I would have stayed in my home for as long as possible. I would have fought for my independence, found ways to get help at home, and held on to the life I loved. If you or someone you love is considering moving into a nursing home, please think carefully. There are good nursing homes out there, but nothing replaces the comfort of home, the freedom of choice, and the dignity of being in control of your own life. I don't say this for sympathy. I say this because I wish someone had told me before I made this choice. Please, don't make the same mistake. If you found this video helpful, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you've ever experienced this yourself, or if you have a loved one in a nursing home, tell me in the comments. What's your experience been like? Let's start the conversation. Because this is a truth too many people don't talk about.